All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the More Smarter Show with myself, Dylan, and Jake Chandler. Jake, what do we offer today?
So we have a guest, Jonathan Tiralosi, aka JT, who actually he really looks like Nick from Love Island. I just watched the reunion right before this episode, so I forgot you look just like him. But he's also a more smarter guest. He has his own business called Bullseye Bookkeeping, and he's here to tell us a little bit about how that was formed. JT, welcome. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is JT. I'm the owner of Bullseye Bookkeeping. So my firm does cleanup bookkeeping and monthly bookkeeping for small business owners and real estate investors. Used to work at KPMG. From there, I went to like a more traditional accounting role at a pharma company, and that's kind of where I learned my bookkeeping skills. While I was there, I started a side hustle, which is Bullseye, and did that for about a year and went full time from there.
So you're just a nerd, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, same. And I think that's why we connected when we first met back several years ago now. We're both nerds with numbers and shit like that.
For sure.
But you know what's cool about us both, too, is when we met, we were both working full-time jobs, W-2 jobs.
Yep.
And since then, we both left those jobs and started our own businesses. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, so you mentioned your job, but like, how was that transition from being an employee to being a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was natural from the sense of like running the business. I always kind of felt like I'm the type of person that wants to do things my way, even if that's not the right way. Like I was always kind of like a touch the fire kid when, someone would tell you, oh, you shouldn't do this, that's going to hurt, this is going to happen. Like I always wanted to see for myself, for better or for worse. So I think that kind of translated in my career as well. And I think the big stress obviously is like the financial stress. Like, in bookkeeping, you get a lot of recurring clients, and my base at the time for recurring work was about $2,000 a month. So it wasn't really enough to cover my expenses. I had a mortgage. I still have a mortgage, but I had a mortgage to cover. And so I really had to get things going to ease that financial stress.
Yeah.
So,
wow. So you went from having a steady paycheck to now going from it's a massive curveball. I mean, Jake had went through it. I've never been through something like that. When you go from that experience, like, do you ever feel like you change the way you go about business? Like now it's less about, all right, it's the purpose of doing it and doing bookkeeping and doing what I love, to now it's like, oh shit, I gotta like actually eat this month. How am I gonna make this happen?
Dude, 100%. I mean, I think in the beginning when I was, just doing it as a side hustle, like I had a vision for one day doing it full time, but at the time it's just, anything extra feels like cream on the top. You get a couple clients and you get some beer money, and that's a nice thing. But when you go from, that to trying to support yourself on it, it's a whole different attitude. And just to, go tell like a brief story, like when in January of that year, that's like kind of the busy season for bookkeeping. And my strategy was to meet more tax preparers that could send like a few clients to me. And what I did at the time was I got a Yellow Pages in the mail. I don't know if the last time you guys seen one. It was the only one I had gotten in a very long time. And I flipped through and I found the accountant's page, and I called all the accountants on there. And then I went online and found that you could get PDF copies of these. So I spent a couple months. I did like a couple hours a day, and I cold called I think 5 or 6 counties in New Jersey of CPAs. So not something I would do today. I would go a lot of different routes to find clients before I did that again. But just like what you're saying, it just goes to show, like, when you got to eat, like, you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And it was somewhat fruitful, and I think still worth it, because I got it's funny, I called 5 counties worth. That's probably I don't know, 1,000 calls roughly, and the third guy I called was the only one that I ended up doing work with, which is funny. But I did get some work out of it, and anything that results in extra work at that time, I think is worth the effort.
I love that you mentioned that you wouldn't do that today, because there are so many things that I look back on just 2 years ago, which in real life is not a long time. Even in business life, it's not a long time. But on the Jake Handler trajectory, it feels so long ago. And there are things I look back at 2 years ago that I would not do today. And simply because I'm working more smarter, but the having worked more harder is such a great thing that I have in my past, right? Like it's, like, although this is a more smarter show, we're trying to, expedite the difficulties. There is a sense of you have to do that. And if you're feeling it at the time, like there are things I do today that I have a passion for that in 2 years I might not have a passion for, but I'm going to be so happy that 2 years ago I had a passion for that. You know what I mean?
For sure. Absolutely. That's so true. Yeah. And I think you touch on like an interesting point, which is like, for me, I feel like I'm an over optimizer everything has to be efficient, optimized, or I'm not satisfied. And I think that it's a good point. Like you do have to do some of these things that just aren't efficient, aren't optimized. And marketing is the perfect example, because marketing, like you can't just Google like what kind of things can I do to market my business to get more sales, stuff like that. You can get a lot of ideas, but really the premise of marketing is that the things that you do to stick out are things that are not being done. And once people start doing them, people stop paying attention to them. And you always have to be on the cutting edge and see, kind of what works for you. So I feel like marketing and sales is a big like slam your head against the wall kind of thing. And it's not efficient a lot of times, but you really, like you're saying, you kind of have to put in those reps to get more comfortable and to kind of see like what things are fruitful and what are not,
Yeah.
And I mean, when you do that though, like Jake said, you're probably not going to have, honestly, I would say that I've never even had a passion for a lot of the things that were hard that I knew I needed to do though. So it's not like, oh, I have a passion for this now. In 2 years, I know that it's not going to be as efficient, but I'm happy about it now. Like, no, a lot of the times you're not going to like it, but you're going to just have to do what you got to do to work more harder to then eventually learn how to work more smarter. And when you go from that, that's when you start to really level up in business.
Yeah, and I think we can all relate to the trajectory of being new to being more experienced, where for lead sources and to get more business, you start with sales. Mm-hmm. Then when you get established, it becomes marketing. Then when you get really established, it becomes branding.
Right.
And I think the goal there is to get from sales to branding. You can't skip that, though. You can't skip sales and skip marketing. You have to make the cold calls when you're new. You have to do shit you don't want to do. Same with marketing. But then branding is like, I mean, JT, you're all up on my algorithms. Like I see your shit every time I log on to any social media. So I also know you personally, but branding to me, when I see your face doing those videos, is a trustworthy, smart nerd that is going to be good at doing the bookkeeping. And you do that tremendously, which is why I wanted you to be on the show. So branding is huge when you get to that point.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think even when I was starting out on my own, like that was a tussle for me. Like I was trying to post things on Instagram. I was trying to comment on people's things to get their attention and do all these sales calls. And I was doing networking and doing a whole mix of stuff. But yeah, like you're right. When you're in the beginning, you really have to hit the ground and do the sales stuff. And the marketing is more of a luxury because that stuff builds trust over time and it takes time. Yep. But yeah, when you're just getting started, you really need the sales to get things going.
But I think it's all like, I think the reason why you need to do all of them is because you got to know what you're good at. Number one, if you're really good at sales, then don't ever leave sales. Like even if you don't like it, you still have to like find a way to optimize it. But still do it because you're the one that's going to be able to make the business grow the best in that category. Now, knowing that you need those other two is very important. So like outsourcing those as well is the next step in growing that business. But I think even still, when you're climbing your way up, if you can just continue to do almost all three of them simultaneously, for me, I feel like marketing could be a part-time job. Like you can
Totally.
get on social media, takes maybe an hour for the day, and you're posting, doing everything. And then you're doing a newsletter, and you can automate your outreach, like automate market email, like text, all that sort of stuff. That's part-time. Brand kind of just becomes a thing, I think, through the marketing and through your sales and through customer service. And then all there is left is just sales. You have to kind of work, work on that. And then it becomes something that is flowing.
Well, sales is what we're calling it, but selling is different. So like, yes, it all equals sales, like the actual sales of your leads. But yeah, it's sort of the trajectory of where the leads come from and how they get to you is that.
And it totally depends on the business too. Like with my business, and it's probably similar in yours too. Like when you get from lead to closing, it's a longer time than a lot of other businesses because we have higher ticket services, and we also have a higher requirement for trust. So like for you guys handling a house sale or purchase, that's the biggest purchase or sale someone's likely going to make in their whole life. There's like a high level of trust there. Same thing with bookkeeping. If I'm going to have access to sensitive information, you have to be able to trust me. So with that, it's nice to have high ticket sales for both of our businesses, but with that comes like a higher level of, touch points and things like that. Whereas like if you're selling power washing services, you might be doing the sales process longer because you might have to go door to door to, get a big client like over time. And that's a little bit more sales oriented than maybe like a bookkeeping business would be. So
totally.
Yeah.
So how did you know it was time to leave your job and start your business or continue your business full time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I was probably 5 months into my career when I had like that moment where I was just like at work late one day. I had like a pretty bad day, and I just realized like that this was just my life for the next 40 years. I almost like accepted my fate. I was like, wow, this is really depressing. Like this is just life now. And then I'm just going to be old when I'm done. And, that led me down all my rabbit holes of, investing in real estate and opening my own business. So I think, that was like the seed of the thought. But once I got the business going, I kind of saw a future for it. And I was crunching the numbers almost every night. I think my fiance would tell you I was neurotically checking, what my monthly burn was and what I'd have to make and stuff like that. And when I left, it was about 6 months of living expenses I had. So not what I would recommend. I would recommend probably closer to 12 if possible. But I just I knew it was something I wanted to do, and it was something I was always reaching for. So I think the thought process I had too is that like I could wait longer and kind of double dip, but the other side of it that you don't really see is like you could double dip forever technically on that thought process, and then you'll always make like a little more money. But the opportunity cost is you can't grow the business, and so I think I kind of saw that as a risk of like the longer I do this, like the longer it's going to take me to really take off my business. Like if this is something I want to do, then why am I going to wait? So that was really the thought process there, and it was definitely scary. Like the first couple of weeks were some sleepless nights, but definitely worth it in the end. And still, I mean, I have days where I'm like just worried about money and stuff like that, but
I had a very similar mental experience to yours and financial experience. And I know you own a couple pieces of real estate, right? So that same with me when I made my transition, it was a nice backbone to have, right?
Mhm.
You weren't worried about buying your first house and your finances so much because you already knew you had at least one good piece of real estate that you could fall back on and sell or refi on if you ever needed to. And that's a huge foundation to have, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's good and bad because you kind of also think of like the downside risk, like,
Yeah.
if the sewer line goes out or if my tenant leaves or something, like it could cause cash flow issues in the short term. But you're right, like having that asset was huge. And the one I live in now, I think it's good. Like, my mortgage payment is under $2,000. So I think for New Jersey, like that's a pretty solid monthly payment, especially to own something, even to rent. I think that's pretty fair. So that was like a good stable base to kind of keep my monthly burn pretty low. And yeah.
By the way, Dylan, I was JT's realtor for the house he's currently in.
Wow, really?
That's right. Yeah.
It was actually off market too.
We gonna tell that story?
Nah, but I'll brag a little bit. It was off market.
I could tell that story. It's a great story, but
so what
he got me a
used
screwing deal. That's the short of it.
Yeah. Wow. Nice. That's good.
Yeah,
Jake's
awesome.
a pretty good realtor, so I guess he could do that. He guarantees off-market deals to everyone. Okay. So again, going back to this being the More Smarter show, we're kind of covering that you put in the grind when you first got into, or going even further back than that, you were working a full-time job, then you saved up, you made the big jump, you made the leap of faith to start your own business. And then now you're like, all right, I have this amount of reserves. This is the business I want to do. I've been doing it on the side a little bit now. And I am now just putting in the grind right now. I'm grinding to get my business up and running. Now that was how long ago? How many years?
So I left in November of 2023. So it's been like, I guess almost 2 years now.
Okay.
Full time.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So full time, 2 years. That's what you did in the beginning of the year, or the end and the beginning, I guess, of 2023 into 2024. You were just grinding. Now, what have you kind of done to make your business and like grow and work more smarter to make that happen instead of cold calling these people? What are the things that you're doing that are more like useful now?
Yeah, I actually was at BNI this week, and I had like a list of things that were, followed my Pareto principle, which I love that theory that, most of your results come from a very small portion of your efforts. And I had some general ones, but I wanted to give like some more nuanced tips because you probably, we might get like a lot of the same stuff. But one thing I did recently was I took on a second contractor. Now my business is not that big that it needs it because I have one contractor that she's very good. She puts in a lot of hours for me and really cuts down the time that I need to spend on things. But I actually took on a second one because what I noticed is like in the same way that it's risky for a solopreneur to run their business by themselves because, they're the bottleneck of everything. And if they get sick or whatever the case is, like the business stops. I also noticed that if my contractor is busy or gets sick or something and has to take time off, it puts me in a bad spot. So having a second person to send work to, it's really been a game changer just because those times when, she's away or she's busy, it gives me like a lot of flexibility. And my business, you just never know when it can get crazy busy and you need someone to lean on there. And I think that's been huge for me.
So when you say contractor, you mean basically an employee? You have two
employees?
Basically
an employee. Yeah.
Cool.
And another thing I wanted to also mention there is that, I don't know if it's really true, but I think from my experience and from what I see, the part of the reason why I like having two part-time contractors as opposed to finding someone full-time is that I'm a firm believer that no one can sit at their desk for 8 hours and do 8 hours of focused work. I just don't believe it. Maybe I'm ADHD, but I know myself and I know other people. I've heard these that, you know, these stats that say people only really work 3 to 4 hours a day even when they're sitting there for 8 hours. And so I think like to give workout in increments where people can do shorter periods of focused work is going to benefit me from a cost perspective too. Like if I can just pay for someone to do 2 hours of work, if I'm paying them 8 hours to do work, it's likely that they're going to be a lot less efficient with the time. So I've kind of structured it that way too, just to be efficient from a cost perspective, that I'm not like overpaying for, time.
Yeah. I like that thought process, but let me ask you, is it, what was I going to say? Is it challenging? I was going to ask if it's challenging to find, I'm sorry. Is your business specific to certain hours, or do you have stuff come in all over the day sometimes? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like in general, it is like a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday business, but I get like stuff, at odd hours of the day, and like I'm always checking my email. But as far as like people doing work for me, like I really don't care when it gets done. So like,
so it's not time sensitive.
No, it's not.
Gotcha.
It's not anything like, and for anyone listening, like bookkeeping is like in the accounting realm, but it's not tax. So tax would be a lot more deadline focused because you have the tax deadlines. That's where my deadlines come in. But the nice thing from a deadline perspective from my business is that we're doing the work all year in most cases. So like 80 to 90% of my clients were doing monthly, and we're getting it done throughout the year, so that when January comes, we really just have to close out like 1 month's worth of stuff. But for taxes, we kind of do it all at once when it's busy, and they get really slammed with the deadlines.
Yeah. Do you have any bad clients, like probably myself would be, that is like, oh my God, dude, I know it's December 1st, but here's 11 months. Is there ever going to be a point, like, do you have that person? And is there ever a point where you're like, I'm just not working with you because you just like mess up my flow? Or what? What's the
That's a good
there?
question. I think I don't put like a lot of guardrails on as far as new clients. I think it's just also like where I'm at. Like I feel like I have capacity and I'm always trying to grow, so I don't want to limit myself too much there. But I get requests like that all the time. And actually, it's usually not in December. It's usually in February and March. So they want their numbers by April 15th because, not to go on a tangent, but even if you extend your tax return, you still have to pay if you have a liability by April 15th. If you don't, you're going to incur penalties. So the premise of that basically is that everyone needs their bookkeeping done by April 15th, whether they're extending or not. And so, yeah, I get like a lot of requests, during February and March. The way I like to look at it is like, yeah, from an outside perspective, like that people might say, oh, that's a bad client, they're waiting till the last minute. But the reality of it is like these people need help. I never try to be that guy that just like won't take clients because they're, they have a bad situation for whatever reason, because the way I see it is like, if I'm only taking on stuff that's like easy, then I'm not really solving real problems. Like,
just going to say that.
Yeah. And like those people, like, even if it's like their own procrastination or laziness, or a lot of times it's, what's the word, like avoidance, like they don't want to deal with it. Like I get that, and it's not ideal for me, obviously, but like I'm solving a problem, and that's like not something I can complain about. Like, I can put kind of rules up and say, listen, we can try. We're not going to guarantee that we can get it done on time, stuff like that. But I'm always trying to, help people in those situations. Like I had someone, a mutual friend of ours, sent a client over last year, and we got started on, I don't remember, April 2nd or something like that. And we were able to get the books done by the 9th. So, that friend of ours was able to get the extension done on time and stuff like that. I think it makes me feel good, because I think also the people that are in more dire situations, they're also more grateful that it gets done, because they kind of felt helpless and they came to someone who who is a professional. So
that's right.
Yeah.
An effective business solves the most problems.
Mhm.
So if you didn't have those people existing, your business wouldn't exist.
That's what I always tell myself. Yeah.
You know, so I deal with this in the HOA management front, where it's often accountant where their former manager is just not doing what they're supposed to do,
Mhm.
or financial transparency, something in that regard, or communication. So yeah, when we take over a new building, it is difficult. It is difficult to trace back with past accountants and attorneys and shit. But when we talk about it amongst our company, we're like, wait, if the challenge wasn't here, we wouldn't have a company.
Right. Yeah.
If they have a great manager, we're not getting that business. They're not moving on from that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
It's-
think
It's there. You go.
no, I was just gonna say, like, there's a little saying I've heard before. It's called the only way out is through. And sometimes
Mm.
you have these clients issues and you say, woe is me, I have this client issue. It's taking more hours than I ended up proposing in the beginning, and blah 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 blah. But it's like you just gotta like look at situations like that sometimes and just be like, this is the nature of it, like you gotta pick your problems. Like, I didn't want to work a job anymore, so now I pick all these problems. Like, you have to kind of embrace that, and just kind of, only way out is through. You just got to get through it, and you can't just avoid the problem. So
Yeah, I love that. Especially, I mean, picking your problem is so true, especially when you're working with clients that it's they're maybe difficult to work with, and it's like, especially when there's problems that we handle problems kind of all the time. Us three as kind of business owners and self-employed people, and it's almost like you're putting out fires. And normal, I would say, everyday people don't manage fires as well as firefighters, right? Like, we could say we're business firefighters, and everyone else is running out of the building scared, projecting like their scaredness on you. And if you don't know how to manage that well, which it seems like you know how to manage it really well, you can get overwhelmed too. So how do you manage that kind of so well?
that's a good question. I think I think the answer is, like, maybe I don't sometimes. Like, maybe I kind of put on the front that I can help, but when I'm here working, like, I do feel the stress. So like, I think really, like, all you can do is just prioritize and just make sure, like, you're tackling the most important things first. Especially in my business, like, I have I think 26 to 27 recurring clients, and then I have like all kinds of I probably have like a handful of cleanup things that are always like ongoing. So there's like a lot of different tasks to handle. Like, when you work a job, when I was at my last job, it was one company, so I have like all these tasks for one company. But like, in this situation, I have to close out the books for all these different companies, follow up with people that haven't answered emails. I have to do all kinds of things and track the status of everything. So in situations like that, like, I'm always just trying to prioritize, like, what's the most urgent stuff, what's the most important stuff, and tackle that stuff first. But it is hard, and it totally is stressful. But I think it's a good kind of stress to have, like, stress with your own business and with yourself, than really to have stress coming from like another person, like a higher up or something like that.
Yeah, picking your problems.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's almost September 2025 during this interview, and you said you're about 26, 27 clients. So a couple of questions about that, and I'm not going to use the word trajectory for the fourth time this interview. I'm going to say the route of your business going forward. My first question about that is your business all subscription model where you're getting that monthly revenue?
Yeah, it's not all, but it's most. So those clients are like on a fixed fee. And then I do, like, I don't really do hourly work, but like, if I have to, sometimes I will. And then there's like cleanup projects too. So someone will come to me and they'll say, like, oh, we need the books done for like the whole year, or we want to get started now, but we got to clean up like the first 8 months. So there's that stuff too. But yeah, it's all like a fixed component, and then the monthly stuff is recurring.
What's your retention rate with the many clients you have?
That's a good question. That's not something I've tracked, and I have thought about tracking it, but weirdly, and it might sound crazy, but I don't think that the time I've been in business is enough time to even track it, because the stickiness in bookkeeping is like pretty high. And I do think like the bar is like fairly low in bookkeeping. And so I think if you do like a really good job, you don't really lose clients. I have lost some clients in the past, and it's a lot of times like when I lose a client, it's almost like I could kind of see it coming from far away. There's varying levels too. Like the service might cost the same for two like comparable businesses, but there's varying levels of like value that can be placed on it. So some people might think that bookkeeping is like an annual thing. It's just compliance for the tax return. But you might have a comparable business that views it as like, we can look at our monthly numbers and we can find all these insights from it. We can see how much interest we're paying on our debt and, prioritize the highest interest rate first. We could get a savings account for our extra funds. We could, make these moves. We can invest here. We could lower our advertising spend in this channel and move it to a different one because this one's working and the other one's not. So, I mean, that's just a few examples, but there's so many things that you can find from your business. And if you're someone that values that kind of stuff, even if it's the same price, you're going to get a lot more value from it than someone that doesn't see it that way. And I've had clients like, there's one that comes to mind that basically they got annoyed about the requests I was sending and all the information I was asking for. And they basically just want to tell me, everything's a business expense, which, I can't be.
Everything's not a business expense?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is like even if it is, like, that's what the bookkeeping's for. I have to be able to put it in the right place. If I could just put everything, just say business expenses for everything, there would be you wouldn't need to hire me. So it's part of the job. And I try to be clear about that stuff. I write it in my engagement letters that the engagement requires me to ask for information. It requires cooperation and, timely responses and stuff like that. So a lot of times, like the clients that leave, they just don't really see eye to eye on the value there.
Yeah. You mentioned you lost clients. 1 to 10, how pissed were you or are you when you lose a client? 10 being the most.
That's a good question. I mean, like, to kind of like expand on like what I was just saying, I think that the anger level is usually higher before, and it's more relief when I lose the client. Because I haven't actually had a situation yet where I lost a client and just felt like, wished I kept that client. Like I had one, he had to actually close his business down. He was trying to go the entrepreneur route and just started his business earlier this year. It was actually doing pretty well, but I think he has kids and they decided with the family that he needed to stop the business and get a job again. But like he was a great client. I just lost him because he closed his business. But a lot of times
shit happens.
Yeah, these people that either they want to do it themselves or they, whatever the case is, like a lot of times that frustration level is way higher before, and I can almost feel it coming. And when it's done, it's usually relief. So
Dylan, same question to you. 1 to 10 for you, Dylan.
11, dude. I get so pissed off whenever I lose a client.
It really does.
I mean, I do though, because only reason I have is because for a lot of my earlier part of the career, for the first maybe year and a half, maybe honestly first 2 years, probably past 6 months I've been doing better with it, is I've been the guy who's been working more harder, and I've been doing that, spinning my wheels, doing all this stuff, not seeing the result, and then I'll get someone who tells me like, oh, I don't want to, like, or like, oh, we bought a house already, or oh, we're listing with someone else. Like, those hurt because you can't find the wins. I think it hurts more once you get more experience though. It's just like, all right, I mean, that happens. I'll find another one. It's fine. and then you'll move forward. I mean, I still need to work on it. Like I'm still not great at that, but I'll be good.
Yeah.
Not a
Yeah,
problem, but
Dylan and I connect on that often. First off, for any new listeners, we know the correct grammar is not more harder and more smarter, but we are saying it as a play on words anyway.
Branding.
It's the more smarter show. Yeah, branding. Thank you.
exactly.
But
It's
Dylan and I, we connect on that often, and I always say, like, if you're not losing clients, you're not doing enough business. Right? You cannot have a 100% retention rate and have a good business at the same time. Those things don't coincide. Now, of course, you don't never want to lose a client for being untrustworthy, doing something, that you shouldn't be doing. Of course, That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the numbers game of it and the fact that you can't be for everyone. Otherwise, you suck if you're for everyone.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah. And, it's kind of like similar in your industry. Like there are people that see like you as an agent and they see, the deals that you're doing and the areas you work in, and they see all these attributes and they say, I have to work with this guy. I have to stick with this guy. And there's other people that they see you as like a barrier to getting a house, and they think that you're a commodity and you're a dime a dozen. And that's what I'm sure you see it. You have people that they want to see houses with you, and then they see themselves out because they, someone promises something better, or, I'll do it for a lower commission, or, people want to commoditize it, and those people will see themselves out. And, hopefully if you're delivering good value in your business, like you will keep the clients that are appreciative of that and see that, and you'll lose the people that are trying to pinch pennies or whatever the case is.
That's why so many agents have a low, they don't make it past the first year, because in any business, if you do things once or twice, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But in any business, if you do things at scale, it starts making sense. So if I lose one or two clients, that's okay, because I'm closing, 20, 30 deals, whatever it is, those numbers make more sense at scale.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So JT, you said this before. You said that people either can think that they do it on their own, or you said the bar is kind of set low in bookkeeping. So like, there's obviously competition out there for other bookkeepers, and then maybe people can think they can do it on their own. What do you kind of think that, and you also implement in your business to make you stand out and getting other people's business and working more smarter?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like the bookkeeping space, as far as pricing, can kind of be like Wild West. But from what I've seen, like I feel like my pricing is kind of like middle of the line. I think like what it comes down to for me is that like I'm delivering at a fair price. I'm delivering more value than the average bookkeeper can give you. So like if you look at it on like a scale of like the bare minimum would be that someone's doing your books just for the year, and you're getting them pretty much probably at the last minute, if you're even getting them at all, or they're just being used for a tax return. That would be like the absolute bare minimum. And the side of the scale that I'm on is I'm actually doing this stuff monthly for clients, and I'm giving them the insights that they need for their business. And I think, the more that I see like other people posting on LinkedIn what they do in their business, like what I do is actually classified as an advisory service. But I offer it as part of my bookkeeping. I don't offer like an advisory package. I don't do tiered pricing as of now. But I offer these insights because in my opinion, if I'm already in the books looking at all this stuff, why not spend an extra 30 minutes a client to, outline the main things that they should know about their business. And like the way I do that is I'll do like what's called a flux analysis. So if we're looking at, July of 2025, I might look and compare it against June of 2025 and also July of 2024. That way you can get like a month over month comparison. You can also see the same month from the previous year. And it can really uncover certain things. Like if you see a really big fluctuation in one of the expenses, you can kind of see like your revenue trend, stuff like that. And, I don't really give like advice to the business owners on like what to do necessarily, but I try to point these things out and help them see them because they have the context to know like what's probably happening based off those numbers. I just need to point it out to them and let them be, let them know that kind of stuff. So I think just going the extra mile and giving those insights has been huge. I haven't had one client ask for them ever, and I deliver them to every monthly client that I do along with the financials. So I think that's like a pretty key differentiator in my business.
That sounds like a great value add. Now, Dylan and I often talk about the difference between being self-employed and a business owner, and how they're different, not the same. Meaning, a self-employed person spends a lot of time on their own business. A business owner, delegates more. Where do you think you fall currently in September 2025 in that category?
Yeah, definitely self-employed. That's how I feel, 100%. And I think I'd like to get to the business owner stage at some point, because that means like I think my vision kind of for it right now, or I guess I'll just tell you where I'm at right now, is that like I'm kind of handling like a little bit of everything. So I'm responsible for doing my own marketing. I'm responsible for closing everything out and doing the final closeouts of the books and stuff like that. So I think like the next step that I need to make in my business is to hire someone that can do a little more higher level stuff. That way I can free up my time to do a little bit more networking, because I have noticed like for accounting, a lot of the business is referral relationships. And so like kind of meeting those tax preparers and other professionals that come across these clients is really key. But when you're busy and you're the one closing out the books, you don't have time to do all this networking stuff.
That's more harder. That's more harder. We want to be more smarter. So we're going to encourage you, and you'll be a guest a year from now and see where we're at, the month over month, year over year thing, to see where you're at with being a business owner. Because I mean, I deal with this a lot with my management company and other things. It's the chicken or the egg. Like, do I want to remove myself first and like start hiring, although that's going to hurt the bottom line? Or do I want more business first and then hire? And I mean, I typically lean towards the first one, but there's arguments for all things. So it's a tough position to be in. It's a cool position to be in, but it is difficult. And I personally encourage you to be more of a business owner than self-employed.
Yes. Yeah. It's always a tricky balance. And just like to give like you, like, I guess the listeners like an insight into the logic is like, yeah, you can businessify things, but like you're saying, you're going to have to invest more into the business to do that. And so like you could definitely take a short-term hit on your bottom line there. And I think like sometimes, that's just like a personal decision of looking at like what your monthly burn is and what you can afford to do. And I think like that's also like a tricky part of owning a business, is that like I feel like when you're a W-2 employee, you get your paycheck, you're going to get your 3% raise at the end of the year, so you know exactly what's coming in after taxes, and you can budget accordingly. It's really simple. Like there's not really a way to like blow the budget unless you have an unexpected expense. So in that case, like anything extra left over, you can say, I'm going to put this into my 401k, I'm going to invest here, I'm going to buy investment property, whatever the case is. But with business, not only do you have like fluctuating revenues, but you also have this new opportunity costs, because you could say, well, I have extra $500. Should I put it into my trading, my, brokerage account and buy like an index fund with it? Or should I invest it in my business? Like, should I hire that person? Should I spend $500 on Google or Facebook ads? Like, these are decisions you have to look at and be like, is it worth more of my money to do, do something in my business than it would be to like invest outside. And that was like a decision I made in my business this year. Last year, I didn't invest anything in my business because I was just trying to stay afloat. And, this year I started paying for SEO a little bit. So that has definitely taken a hit to my bottom line. It's kind of a long-term game, but it's kind of that analysis, like, where's the money going to be better spent? In my opinion, I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope, because I'm of the belief that like you could put your money in an index fund and make 8%, or you could put it into your business. Like if you can't make 8% of your money in your business, you should close shop. So in my opinion, it's always going to be reinvest in your business, but yeah, there does come a point too where you guys take some chips off the table each month and try to put it in other places, maybe buy a house back or something.
So you had the decision like SEO for more business or higher kind of, and you chose SEO?
It wasn't necessarily that, but like I could have just like kept the money too and just like reinvested it elsewhere. So,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like playing a long-term game. I think I'm paying like $500 a month. Haven't really seen results yet, but it's like kind of a long-term game. I'm trying to set myself up for next tax season so that, when people need me, I'll be hopefully highest on the rank. So that's like kind of the idea there. I'm like setting myself up for next year, but yeah, it's just one of those things. Like you invest money into the business and you hope that you hope that it comes back, but never know. Yeah.
I mean, the biggest part with that though is being ready for that type of business to come in. Like, let's say you are top of it and you get 100 calls. It's like, can you manage that within the span of a week?
Point.
So do you even want to be putting that money towards that if you're not ready for it? So
yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah. And I thought about that too. And like, yeah, like that needs to be part of that too. Even though I'm already investing there, like I do need to invest extra because like you're saying, if I were to get like this huge influx of leads, I couldn't handle all of it, especially like I have my current clients. I know that's already a busy time. And then to throw on top of that, like a bunch of, web traffic, it would be like probably overwhelming. So I would need to set up, some systems and have some people to keep things moving so I could take on new clients and onboard people. But yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, yesterday when I was absolutely kicking Dylan's ass in pickleball, we actually were talking about this subject a little bit. I swept him 6-0 and 6 sets straight. We were talking about this subject a little bit, and we used Chipotle.
I'm not going quiet on that. He's a sweat.
We used Chipotle as an example of a business that the product is. We love Chipotle, so it's fantastic. I'm a huge Chipotle fan.
Yeah.
But when they were new, and I don't know the intricacies of Chipotle, I kind of just came up with this out of my ass, but I think it's a good point. When they were newer, I mean, I think recently was the first commercial of Chipotle I've ever seen, and they've been around for like 20 plus years.
Right.
But they didn't focus on advertising or sales until their product was known as being tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
They instead, I'm sure they took some hit because it's still, how can you get really full of good ingredients for $10? I don't know, but they figure it out. But they have invested into that great ingredients. They don't care about their bottom line as much. They don't care about more sales as much. They care about the product.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to connect that to our businesses. And we don't sell products, we sell services. But it's still, I want to focus on, for mine, like the purpose and the journey and the product,
Mm-hmm.
and the sales will happen.
Yeah, I love that mentality. And especially like when you're trying to get referrals the way you are, like you want to really stand out and make a good impression on people, because those can turn into other leads. And it's the same for me too. Like the service I deliver is like really good marketing. Like I heard this thing from Alex Hormozy, and I forgot like exactly what it was, but he basically framed this as like, it was almost like if you had one client, you couldn't like do marketing, like how would you do things type of thing. And I always thought that was really interesting. Like the idea that like, if you needed to get all your clients starting from one client, like how would you treat that client? I think it's just a good example of like, I think people really focus a lot on like all these different things. Like we're talking about SEO, they want to do social media and stuff like that. And all this stuff is great, but having a really good product or delivering a really good service and getting like that word of mouth to people that, they trust is like the best way to get leads, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah. Totally. What I'm trying to figure out, going back to kind of the Chipotle example, is how can I make my clients so happy, even though I'm only giving them like a half scoop of chicken. It's like, how are they? But I mean,
Don't give them a half scoop of chicken.
What'd you say?
I said, don't give them a half scoop of chicken. Why would you ever do that?
Well, then they put the other half, and then they're like, that's going to be double. You want extra chicken?
You need to try different hours. Maybe you're getting the wrong employee.
That's what I say.
Well, I think in our industry, Dylan, there's a lot of systems we can invest in on the back end. Transaction coordinator, CMA services for buyers, or whatever, like listing, what's it called, virtual staging, like all those things to be, when we get the call, we have it in our back pocket. That's the Chipotle analogy, because like the product is here. Like I'm ready for the call. We just have to have the call come, but that's last.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and now thinking about it, JT, that was a great point. Is like, how would you treat one of your clients if it was your only client? Mm-hmm. And that's where I think I could definitely be doing a better job. When you're overloaded with like 10 clients and then maybe like 15 other clients or like prospects, then you're like completely scatterbrained, and now you're not focusing on what's the closest to the money, what's the bottom of the funnel. And when you do that, I think you're going to be able to close more business if you just treat the top clients you have as a number one priority, and create out the systems to do that. Like one thing that I do in real estate is, for all my like active buyers, I have a hot sheet that comes out, all the new properties, trying to get off of real estate as quick as possible. But I go through all of it and I like send it out to them, but I send it out blank. Like, wouldn't it be cool if you get like every morning at 6 a.m., good morning, here are the list of things, and I get super specific. Here are the a list of homes that have come new to the market in your criteria. It's automated. I could just do that.
Right, yeah.
Jake made a funny face. What's wrong with that? That's so good.
You're losing me a little bit. Like that exists. Like you can easily do that.
I know I can. But why I do it manually every morning. I don't know what I'm doing. That's what I'm saying.
That's nuts.
Like, no, it's like, all right, I have a good system down where I'm waking up in the morning, I'm going to my computer, I'm looking. I get an automatic email sent, and I could hand pick each property. Well, I could just make it automatic.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's like a nice thing. Like people get like all kinds of drip campaigns, but maybe like yours comes in naturally, or maybe it doesn't go to spam because it's not being sent out to like multiple people. So maybe you got a little advantage there, sending like a personalized message with properties in it.
Yeah, and one thing I do is I send past buyer clients yearly updates on what their value is. And JT, off memory, because I'm a nerd like this, September 7th coming up is your date from 2 years ago.
I just did the last one. That's crazy.
Well, no, yeah. So I do like 6 months, and then 12 months, and then 24 months. But yeah, that's definitely one way to add value. It's cool to see if you're a buyer. I check my own personal home's value all the time, so it's cool to see how much your value increed.
Oh yeah,
JT, sorry to let you know, but this year your home value has gone down.
I lucked out. The guy across the street bought a comp for $60K over what I bought mine for. So we're in business, right? Might be good to get rid of my PMI soon.
Yeah, for sure. So JT, as we are close to wrapping up, let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. My 1 to 10 game is back. How sellable is Bullseye Bookkeeping if you try to sell it tomorrow? 1 to 10.
Oh man, it's low. It's probably like a 3 or 4. I mean, someone might buy my client list, but it's not very sellable yet.
And it has nothing to do with intent, right? I'm not implying that you would want to sell, but it is something as business owners we want to be mindful of, is how sellable is my business? Because that's the difference also between self-employed and a business owner. You can't sell yourself. You can't sell self-employment,
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to sell like the systems and the infrastructure, client list, branding, all that stuff. So that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing
But-
go ahead, Dylan.
Me and Jake were talking about this yesterday, and I said that exact same thing about potential business. And I was like, my goal is to just get into it and then sell it in like 10 years, 20 years. I'm playing like a long game. I'm not saying I'm going to sell it tomorrow, but like sell it down the road. And he's like, that's a really bad attitude. You shouldn't go into a business wanting to sell it. It should be a purpose. It should be a passion. I'm like thinking now that
Oh my God. You would
Yeah,
like the
since-
Founders podcast, Jake, if you ever heard of that one. Have you listened to that?
No, I only listen to the More Smarter Show. I haven't listened to any other podcasts ever in my life. I just re-listen to these episodes all the time. But Dylan, that's still what I'm saying. I'm not saying you should intend to sell, but you should always be mindful of being sellable.
which is fair, but it goes back to our original point, right? Where it's, all right, I know that maybe I don't have a purpose or a passion that's going to be filled for this business, but what I do have a purpose or passion for is being able to look at my bank account and see a couple million dollars if it gets to that point of selling it. And I think that would be sweet. And that could be a purpose. And
Yeah,
you
I don't think that's good. I don't like that. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think money should not be the driving factor of a business.
I'm not saying that that's exactly what this is. Like
I
I do have a little bit of a
interest. Yeah.
Yeah, I
interest.
think-
Yeah, interest is the word. Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah, I think like building to sell like is kind of like if you have a firm or a business that's built to sell, it means that you have like all these systems dialed in, and I think that's a good quality to have. But my fiance is actually in the middle of selling a business, so maybe if that goes through, you could have her on and she could tell you how she's more smarter.
Wow. Yeah. That's
Absolutely,
really
yeah.
totally. Yeah. I mean, again, being sellable is not intending to sell, but it's also meaning that you're just like a house. Like you could refi. Like I don't know the refi comp for a business, but like you have a valuation to it once there are systems and processes. Where my management company is really, really in tune to that, and we have something called a playbook that we just call it, and it's like definitely over 100 pages at this point, 3 years into having a company.
Mhm.
And it's just like it makes hiring so much easier. We can plug and play. And we have Loom videos for each thing. So same with Meg's business. She has a similar thing, and it just makes, and that's what I mean by sellable, just sort of being a process oriented.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's wrap this up. I really enjoyed this. I said I listened to only the More Smarter Show, and I will definitely be listening to this episode back because I do love listening back to our episodes multiple times, and I'm excited for this one. So,
Real quick, I got a list of things. Do you want me to just rapid fire? Like a couple
rapid fire. Go ahead.
I'll do quick. Following up with old leads because they were once warm leads. So maybe 6 months later, just checking in, seeing how they're doing. I do cards at Christmas time for referral partners. It's really low hanging fruit. Nobody does it, and if you do it, you'll for sure stand out. Excel shortcuts is big in my business, but anything that you do repetitively, learn how to do it the quickest possible way because you're going to save a lot of time in the long run. And then 40 hertz beats on YouTube and a hat. And the hat blocks your vision, and the 40 hertz beats, you gotta try this. They say that there's some kind of like frequency of sound that helps you focus. I don't know if it's true or not. I might be like drinking the Kool-Aid.
You have that?
It's on YouTube. It's just like a 2-hour video. It sounds like a meditation.
It's only 2 hours.
Yeah, you just replay it when you're done, but it gets me locked in. So
you know what's so funny is I did that in college forever. Like all of my like homework and exams and everything. And when I was studying actually for the real estate exam too, I would just like type in focus music.
nice.
Very similar. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that got you, it does get you dialed in.
Yeah, it's clutch, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
JT, when we have you back in 2026, I hope you say, you know what? I can't believe in 2025 I was listening to dialed in music. Now I'm taking walks whenever I want to, going to the gym at 2:00 because someone else is doing the dialed in stuff.
Yeah, well, I sold my business to a private equity firm for $5 million, so I'll be retired
Yes.
by then.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the more smarter challenge to you, and we'll have you back in 2026.
Love it. And if I'm not more smarter by then I'll probably go through text. So
It's a good idea. JT, where can we find Bullseye Bookkeeping on social?
I'm on Facebook, or not Facebook. I'm on Instagram at Bullseye Bookkeeping, and yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just type in Jonathan Tiralosi, and I like to post on there too.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you,
Awesome
JT.
guys.
episode.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.